Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Fast Track Webinar number 2, Job Search Strategy. My name is Nav. I'm here with our guest speaker, but before we begin today's session on job search strategy, I want to remind us all where we are up to date. So we've completed the first webinar last month, which was an introduction to the roadmap to success. We've provisioned VMOC accounts for everybody. For those of you who have used it already, you know that VMOC is our resume review platform. I went into the system yesterday. Many students have already uploaded one or more times, and there are some great examples that I'd like to share and celebrate before we get on to today's content. So let's look at the highest scores in VMOC to date. So yesterday night I went through the system and I found the 2 highest scores being Isti from Indonesia and Jose from Mexico. So Jose, if you're on this webinar today and you recognize that resume on the right, congratulations, you scored 90. And Isti in Indonesia had a score of 93. And so what makes these resumes deserving of the highest scores? The system picked up that their bullet points with regards to their previous work experience and achievements and results were quantified. There was excellent use of action verbs that were synonymous with the industry and functions in which these candidates worked in previously. And of course, they adhered to the HALT resume template in the way of structures, fonts, spacing. Though, word of advice for Isti, if you're on the call, you could probably take your resume from 93 to 96, 97, maybe 98 if you add spacing in between your subheadings in your resume there. So we noticed you tried to fit it all on one page. If you add some spacing, you're going to see another increase in your score. While we're talking about increases in score, the other resume I'd like to highlight and congratulate is Mara from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, my hometown. So if Mara is on the call, congratulations on having the most improved resume, meaning Mara's resume, her first iteration was scored 18, and after a few revisions, she got all the way up to 85, which is actually the greatest score increase we've seen thus far in the 3 years of using VMOC with HALT. So congratulations there. Mara, if you're on the call, I did also notice that your initial resume was a custom self-branded resume. I don't want you to feel like you need to throw that out and never use it again. You certainly can where applicable. But the content of your resume, your bullet points, and the way that you phrased and used action verbs was on point, both in my eyes, but also in the system's eyes as well. So congratulations again to Mara, Isti, and Jose. Okay, with that said, I know today's webinar, we had scheduled Catherine Boschkoff, the Vice President of Global Career Development and Alumni Relations, to be here with us today. However, she had an urgent flight to take this morning. She had to visit our London campus, and so she was in the air for most of today. I believe she still is, and maybe is an hour away from landing. So, unfortunately, the Wi-Fi isn't as strong as we'd like it to be on her flight. So we've invited Peter Hill, Senior Director of HALT Global Career Development, to join us again. For those of you who joined us on webinar 1, you know Peter provided his insight on the roadmap to success. Peter Hill is an international employability expert. We call him here the career doctor. He is like a surgeon, right? He resuscitates careers and helps people fix broken careers. Maybe he's great. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Peter. Peter, take it away.
Thank you very much, Nav. Thanks for the kind introduction, and thanks for inviting me back to the webinar series. Super happy to be here and excited to present some valuable information to all of our participants here on this evening's call. So for those of you who weren't able to join webinar number 1, I'll just do a quick self-introduction. As Nav mentioned, my title is Senior Director, Global Career Development here at Holt International Business School. I have been an international career coach myself for more than 20 years, previously in private practice, working with private clients, corporate clients, as well as education clients. And I'm now in my 7th year with Holt International Business School. I've spent 4 years on our Shanghai, China campus, 2.5 years on our London undergraduate and postgraduate campuses. And then for the past 3 months, just relocated here to our Boston campus, overseeing all of our global programming for career development. So that comprises our one-on-one advisory capacity, as well as all of the workshops and seminars and career fairs and boot camps that we run across all of our campuses. So previously, I've also lived and worked in Japan. I'm a conversational speaker of Japanese, which allows me to converse with a few of our Japanese students. And I also spent some time in California, where I earned my business degree at San Diego State University. So really nice to meet all of you. And why don't we proceed with the next, say, 20 or 25 minutes or so of what we hope will be for some very useful content and tools that will move you forward towards preparing for your arrival on campus. So regardless of which home campus you begin your whole journey at, your dedicated career development team at each campus are all experts in international career transitions and job searching. Together, we bring decades of experience to the table, supporting all Holt students as they take the next step in their careers. So for those of you who are full-time postgraduate or MBA students, specialty master's students doing the one-year program, the vast majority of you will be looking for a new job upon graduation. There may be a handful of you going back to a family business, possibly starting your own business, or maybe even furthering your education. But for the vast majority of you who will be looking for a new job, we are here to support you in that career transition. For our executive MBA students who may be on the call, I should let you know that we found that it's roughly 30 to 40% of you who will be seeking a job at some point during your 2-year academic journey. And if that's you, if you find yourself job seeking during your academic journey with Holt, then we have a very robust team of external career coaches who are in place to support you on your executive MBA career transition. And so again, whether it's whether all of you already have international careers, or some of you already have international careers, or whether you are looking to take that leap from what might be a single country career or possibly a regional career, and take that leap into the international arena, we're here to support you, and we're actually experts in helping people do that. So the fact that you're participating in this fast track series of webinars is absolutely evidence that you are already starting early in your thinking about your career transition. So congratulations to all of you, and we're glad that you've decided to engage early. Once you do arrive on campus, things are going to get really busy on the academic and the social front as you begin to make new personal friends and develop your professional networks. So you may find it difficult to manage, that balance between your academics, your social life, exploring your new home campus city, and also managing the demands of an international job search. What we see year after year is that students who engage early with the career programming that we have to offer you are usually those who find great jobs upon graduation. Now, specifically with regards to your career transitions and your job searches, we would like you to put on your critical thinking hat, your business analytics hat, and really drill down into what are the elements of a job search and what are the elements of our careers. And there really are 3 basic elements that we want you to think about. And gain clarity on as you execute your job searches. So the first is the role, the second is the industry, and the third is the geography. Now, you may have heard the word career change thrown around in conversation or read about the idea of a career change online. And the definition of a career change is quite simple, actually. Anytime that you change any one of these three elements, you can consider it a career change, right? So even if you're just changing geography, if you're seeking a job in a new geography, that is absolutely considered a career change, okay? Now, seeking a job that comprises changing just one element, such as just the geography or just the industry, would be considered quite challenging, right? Now, changing two elements, such as both geography and industry, or changing both role and industry, is even more difficult. Changing role, industry, and geography, all three at the same time, is what we call a triple jump. And the triple jump, while not impossible, is definitely exceedingly challenging. So you'll want to have a clear strategy and be super proactive in order to change your career. Even if you're just changing one element, you're going to need to plan, and you're going to need to be very proactive, really taking proactive control of your efforts. And what we do find is that, again, changing one element is difficult, but the more elements you are trying to change, the longer it typically takes to land a job. Also, the more elements you try to change, the clearer your strategy has to be, and the more proactive you need to be rather than reactive, okay? So again, this is just to kind of lay the foundation for some of the critical thinking that should go into how you plan your job search. And one of the base activities to help develop that strategy begins with self-reflection, right? It's taking a look in the mirror and taking stock of who you are, both personally and professionally. And so with regard to job search and career transition, it's important to take a look at skills, interests, your ideal work environment, possibly your work-related values, possibly kind of mapping out kind of a 5-year or maybe even a 10-year or maybe even longer for some of you, some type of a vision of where you kind of see yourself going. Doesn't necessarily have to be a concrete step-by-step plan, but having some type of intention of going in a certain direction can go a long way. It's much more productive than just kind of randomly sailing across the ocean with no destination in mind. So strengths are particularly important. Career advisors all over the world will absolutely work with their clients on strengths and understanding how strengths can inform your choice of career path. Strengths come in different flavors, right? There's culture, there's language. Those sometimes inform regional market knowledge. And then there's more concrete skills, such as finance, such as marketing, that kind of thing. The STEM skills, right? And then also IT skills, possibly a combination of those. But what's important is that you take a look in the mirror, take a structured approach to this type of self-assessment, and allow that sense of self to combine itself with what the market has to offer. And I'll get to that point in just a second. What I would like to share with you is that your career advisors on campus at Holt International Business School are experts at helping you navigate this self-reflection conversation. We've got a great toolkit of self-assessment tools which can help you with this, with this look in the mirror, if you will. So once you've done that self-reflection, or possibly, in parallel with the self-reflection, you're going to want to start researching your options, right? And this will help you match your skills with what the market has to offer. One of the main points that we really want to drive home here is that while you absolutely should do a little bit of preliminary research online, we really want to encourage you to get out from behind your computer and your keyboard and get out there in the world and speak with people. meet people face to face, go to networking events, but then also turn those networking events into productive one-on-one conversations over coffee and maybe a lunch. You know, there's no better way to learn about a sector than by speaking with somebody who's been working in the sector for a while. There's no better way to learn about a location than speaking with somebody who may be from a different geography, who pulled off a successful transition into a new geography, right? So they can give you insights about how they pulled off the transition. They can also give you insights about what it's like to work in that new geography. So this idea of speaking with people who are already experts in the market and in industries and in functional areas is called informational interviewing. And informational interviewing is magical for a variety of reasons, right? Number one, it allows you to gain real-time information. Number two, it allows you to possibly expand your network. And number three, informational interviewing can sometimes lead to referrals into job opportunities. So it's kind of a magical tool that has multiple functions. And we see a lot of magic happening when students embrace this idea. And I wanted to plant that seed now before you arrive on campus, because again, once you arrive on campus, things are going to get quite busy, and we want to make sure that you embed this idea of informational interviewing into your job search strategy. So once you've done that self-assessment, once you've done some preliminary research on the possibilities, you're going to start coming up with some ideas about what a job search plan might look like for you. You're going to have many ideas about what you want to pursue in your job search, and quite frankly, it can get overwhelming and confusing when you have lots of ideas floating around in your head. So what we've done is we've created a really simple tool to help you get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper in a very simple document that we call a targeted job search plan. So on our slide here, you can see an example of a targeted job search plan for somebody named Jane Smith. You can see that she's targeting the United Kingdom for the geography. She's targeting a marketing manager role for the functional area. And for target sectors, she's aiming for consumer products, technology, and banking. And you'll notice that she's also identified companies within her target sectors, and she's broken down those companies by company size. Okay. The other parts of the plan are why this is my plan A, right? So we want you to justify to yourself as well as to your career advisor why this geography makes sense to you. Why the role makes sense for you, and why the industry makes sense for you. We really don't want you guys to be out there following a pipe dream. We'd like to have some really solid justification of why things make sense. And in fact, when you're interviewing with employers, they are going to want to know. So by doing this preparation in advance, and again, applying your critical thinking skills to your own career, will help you make better decisions and be able to communicate to employers why you are applying to their company, right, and that sector. The last element of the job search plan is target networks. So, you probably heard the ubiquitous phrase that most jobs are found through networking. There's absolutely some truth to that. And so we encourage you to get out there and meet people at industry associations and network with alumni and faculty. Identify meetups and Chamber of Commerce events that are happening around your host city. They're everywhere in London. Dubai has similar events. Here in Boston, they're ubiquitous. I think you can probably find some type of a business networking event every single evening in all of these cities. Okay, so we want you to really get these ideas on paper. Get them out there so you can see them written down somewhere. It will make a big difference and give you a sense of, say, a bit of structure as well as a bit of comfort knowing that you've got a plan in place. As well as, I'd like to add that, students who take the time to really identify both a plan A and a plan B and possibly even a plan C will more likely than not have a great opportunity upon graduation. So You'll want to have a plan A, B, C for your search. Most HALT job seekers make geography a priority. And it really is an individual decision whether you want to prioritize geography or prioritize function or prioritize industry sectors. But the fact is that we notice that most HALT job seekers are prioritizing geography, and that's just fine. Others do prioritize functional areas for their plan ABC, and some others actually prioritize role. But what's really important is that you're clear on what your priorities are. We want to avoid that you take this shotgun approach, or the other analogy we use is where you're throwing darts at a world map and hoping that it hits something. we really don't want to take that type of a random approach to your job search. Okay, so that's what this targeted job search plan is useful for. Now, a sample of this plan, as well as a template of this plan, is going to be made available to you in a Word format at the end of this webinar. Next, we would like to encourage you not to forget about small businesses and SMEs. Okay? SME stands for small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, working for a large multinational corporation may be an aspiration for many of you. It certainly is for many HALT students. There are definitely pros and cons to working for large companies, just as there are pros and cons to working for smaller companies. But some of the pros of working for smaller companies is that we see HALTians who are working for smaller companies tend to make a more visible impact more quickly because of the nature of a small company. They're able to get access to senior management more readily because the companies are smaller. We often see them taking on more responsibility and sometimes being promoted more quickly within smaller companies. So, knowing that those are some of the pros, we always want to encourage HALT students not to forget about small and medium-sized companies. So when you're working on your targeted job search plans, absolutely include multinational companies if that is an aspiration for you, but absolutely don't forget about small and medium-sized companies. The other, benefit of going after smaller companies, and this actually has to do with what happens before you join the company, is that job searches, when you're targeting smaller companies, can actually happen quicker, right? When you think about it, large companies, they're massive, right? They have massive HR departments, they have massive kind of recruitment platforms. They're more likely to use applicant tracking systems, where your online application goes into a database, which is sometimes end up being a bit of a black hole, where it never even sees human eyes, right? And so, kind of the hiring process with much larger companies can be vaguer, more difficult to navigate, and can take longer because of all of this. Now, don't get me wrong, we have HALTians working at very large, prestigious multinational companies. So again, we're not saying ignore them. But the job search with smaller companies can be quite a bit quicker because they're less likely to throw your resume into a database. They're more likely to have fewer interviews, and you're more likely to be speaking with senior management during the interview process much quicker, right? So in summary, please don't forget about small, medium-sized companies. Absolutely make them part of your targeted job search plans. And by the way, this is true of every geography in the HALT system. This next slide actually addresses one of our frequently asked questions about H-1B jobs. So I absolutely want to speak to the H-1B visa. In the end, attaining an H-1B visa is the kind of the impetus of the company itself, right? If they have foreign workers or foreign applicants, I should say, who they would like to potentially bring on board under an H-1B visa, they need to apply for the role through the H-1B visa process. And in the end, it is a lottery. That is a fact, and that is just kind of the way the process works. But each year we do have Haltians who start out on what we call the OPT extension of their F1 visa, which is a student visa. And we do see Haltians who indeed attain the H-1B visa status. So that's great news. Now, again, it is, there's no guarantee on this, but what we wanted to share with you is the types of roles that companies tend to apply for the H-1B visa. We'll just take the example of consulting. You'll see senior consulting, strategy consulting, senior business analyst. Across operations, you're going to see operations manager, general manager, operations admin. In marketing, again, you're going to see marketing manager, social media manager, content manager. So, the real key takeaway for us that we wanted to share with you is that many of the H-1B applications, some of which become successful like these, are going to mid to senior roles. And they tend to be quite heavy in kind of business development, particularly when the business development has to do with international business development, and management consulting for sure. And we do have a sprinkling within IT and finance as well. And then at the very top, you see some of the analyst roles. But I hope this addresses some of the questions on what types of roles companies are petitioning for the H-1B jobs. We're getting close to the end of my portion of the presentation before we hand it back off to Nav and do some Q&A. But what I did wanted to share with you is that, the whole spirit of us putting on these series of fast track webinars is to help you prepare in advance before you arrive on campus, right? The reality is that for those of you doing the one-year program, your graduation will be in August 2019, unless you happen to be doing the dual degree or unless you happen to be one of our executive MBA students. But for you full-time students who are going to graduate in August, I would like to assure you that the 1 year will go by very quickly, right? It really is actually, let's see, this is June, July, August. It's really about 14 months from now when you're going to graduate. And that will go by very quickly. So the more prepared you can be for that first appointment that you have with your career advisor on your home campus, the much better off you will be in your job search. I absolutely believe in that with the bottom of my soul. I can't overemphasize it. So run your resume through VMOC at least twice. If you're not sure what VMOC is, go back to webinar number 1 and watch it and learn about what VMOC is and what a great tool it is and how to use it. Put some thought into your targeted job search plan. The template and sample are going to be made available to you after this webinar today. Put some thought to it. Even better, put pen to paper. Bring at least a draft version of a targeted job search plan with you to your first appointment with your career advisor. Okay. For you full-time students, during your 1 year program, we are offering 4 allotted booked appointments with your advisor throughout your 1 year program. For our experience is that 4 appointments is more than enough to achieve what you're looking for. Now, you will also, in addition to the 4 booked appointments, have unlimited access to drop-in hours at our career center on campus, okay? So the combination of the booked appointments with the drop-in hours will absolutely get you where you need to go, but you gotta start early, okay? Last but not least, just a quick touch point on where we are in the Fast Track webinar series. Today is Job Search Strategy, June 25th. Previously on May 22nd, we delivered the Roadmap for Success webinar. Again, if you did not participate in that one, please go back and take a look at the link. The next 2 coming up will be in July and August. So on July 17th, Don Watson, who is our career development manager in our London campuses, will help you out with your resume, building a killer resume. Now, even if you are one of those who got that 75%, 80, 90 I saw one as high as 93 today, so great job. But no matter how great your score was in VMOC, I absolutely assure you that it can be even better. And there's always room for improvement on a resume. So make sure you join us on July 17th, regardless of where you are at with your VMOC score, or even if you haven't run it through VMOC, we still encourage you to attend because you absolutely will learn something valuable. August 14th, I will be back actually on building relationships in your brand. This is a heavy focus on how to develop your personal brand using social media, particularly LinkedIn, which is the most ubiquitous professional branding platform out there. And not just in the US, but this is now a global platform. So please join me on the 14th to learn some hot tips on how to develop your personal brand through LinkedIn. These webinars occur at 7 p.m. China Standard Time, 6 p.m. British Standard Time, and then 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is here in Boston and the New York time zone. And again, July 17th, August 14th are the last two webinars before we welcome you to campus. So at this point, I'd like to toss it back over to Nav, and then we're going to open it up for some questions.
Great, thank you, Peter. So if you do have any questions for Peter, I encourage you to use the Q&A. And while you're typing your questions, I just want to reiterate that at some point today, we are going to email all the webinar participants a copy of that targeted job search plan. So Peter shared that document where you can outline your plan A, plan B, plan C. We have it in Microsoft Word format for you to use over the course of the summer. In addition, if you have any fast track related questions, I noticed that in the chat, a few people were talking about where to get the link for the first webinar. Some people had some issues logging in with VMOC, things like that. You can certainly email fast.track@halt.edu and someone will get back to you within 24 hours with a response. Okay, so with that said, let me take a look at the questions that are in the Q&A. I noticed we have quite a chatty bunch. The webinar chat it's pretty good. You guys are networking there, so it's good to see. Okay, so Peter, Ricardo has a question. I'm planning on doing the 18 months, so a master's and then a dual degree. Which offerings, which job offerings, I guess, should I be looking at? And as well, I find it more attractive to work in small companies for broad experience. Is this effective and advised? What's the effective path to take for a job for someone who's job seeking? So let me just break this down into two, Peter. Somebody who's doing the dual degree, when it comes to planning a job search, the plan A, plan B, what are some of the things that a student should do? And I guess this is like timing wise, what should they be doing? And then going back to the SME, what are the advantages for somebody working in an SME versus a large company, particularly if they're changing geographies?
Okay, so great question. Let me try to tackle these one by one. So if you're doing the dual degree program, which is your full first year degree and then doing the second degree with a March graduation date, as I mentioned, you're going to have, we're offering 4 appointments during your first year, along with drop-in unlimited drop-in during the Career Center hours. When you get into your second degree, you will have 2 appointments with an advisor, okay? The great news for you is that you are going to have plenty of time to do an internship. Now, I don't know where you're from and what your home campus, your intended home campus is going to be, but we do have a great internship infrastructure in place. Depending, again, where you're from, what your home campus is, it will inform what type of an internship and what that looks like. Some of you may need to do the internship for credit. If you're, just as an example, I will share with you that if you are a non-European citizen and you decide on London as your home campus, you can do an internship, but it must be for academic credit, right? The same is true for the US in certain circumstances. I'm sorry I'm giving a slightly vague answer, but the reason why is because it really depends on where you're from and what your home campus will be. What I can share with you is that we are actually quite agile and adept at helping students with this conversation. And we do have an internship for credit infrastructure in place to help you gain that experience that you're looking for. Now, particularly with your question, the great news is that if you're targeting smaller companies, the great news is that smaller companies are very, very keen to bring on interns. And the path to market for smaller companies is a relatively short path compared to a multinational company, right? In the end, that's going to be a very personal conversation between you and your career advisor. Again, you're going to have 4 appointments available to you in your first degree and 2 available in your second degree. But I still suggest that you start early. Do not wait until your second degree. Starting early will make sure that you're all set up so that you can land something meaningful to you upon graduation in March. That would be March 2020. I hope I addressed your question.
Thank you, Peter.
Sure.
Peter, you from Japan, konnichiwa. You has a question regarding targeted job search plan. You mentioned target networks being part of that targeted job search plan. What are some of the ways that a student could maintain their existing networks or build new networks while they're at Holt?
Thank you. You Take. Konnichiwa. Hi, you. Thanks for your Thanks for your question. So I see that you're let's see, you're from Singapore. Okay, got it. And you're aiming for Dubai as a home campus. Targeted job search plan. Please tell us how to maintain existing and new networks in our current places during this current pre-Holt period. Okay, so you're asking how do you maintain your network in Singapore before you head off for your MBA, right? So absolutely, great question. Look, when you come to Holt, you're going to start developing a brand new network, and you're going to want to make sure that you maintain your existing network back in Singapore. So I would suggest that you start planting those seeds with your existing network. Inviting them out for coffee, lunches, with whatever your preferred social networking style is, and let them know that you're going to be away for a year and you're going to be doing an MBA in Dubai, and let them know that you still want to keep in touch. And better yet, while you're doing your 1-year MBA, you're going to want to stay in touch with those people back in Singapore. Now, I'm assuming that, based on your question, I'm kind of assuming you want to return to Singapore after graduation, and I think that's fantastic. But you're going to want to maintain those relationships. But it definitely starts now, letting them know that you're going to be outside Singapore for a year pursuing your MBA. And you will need to be strategic to regularly keep in touch with your networks. Possibly by giving them updates about what you're experiencing during the program, possibly sharing articles or papers of interest that you come across as you navigate the different coursework that you're going to do. But absolutely start now. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to keep your network alive back in Singapore. I mean, that's one of the great things about today's technology.
Great, thank you, Peter. Peter, there was a question from an executive MBA student. Is there a cap on the number of meetings an executive MBA student can have with their career advisor?
No, there are not. So with our executive MBA students, I will share with you that the career advisors are actually external consultants. They are experts in a variety of areas, particularly in their local geographies. So we do have an Asia-based executive MBA coach. We have a few based in Dubai. We have a few based in London. We have one based in Boston. And we have another one based in San Francisco, right? So You will have access to them. What we do see is this. We see that on average, our executive MBA students are kind of matching the same volume that we are, that we offer to our full-time postgraduate students. So roughly 3 to 4 appointments during the year is about what we're seeing anyway. So we don't necessarily, communicate any limit on that. What I will share with you is that the purpose of the EMBA coaches is job search, right? So they are career transition coaches to help you if you are in a concrete job search, okay? Once you arrive on campus, and actually this is to all of you out there, not just our executive MBA students, but when you arrive on campus, during your first weekend on campus, during your orientation sessions, you're going to learn more about who the coaches are, how to reach out to them, how to book appointments, and all the other elements of career programming that we have in store for you on campus.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Peter, you mentioned startup hubs, places like Berlin, San Francisco, Dubai, and there, a few questions came in about entrepreneurship. So a lot of students do an MBA or a master's program to accelerate a career, and some do it to start a business venture. How does the school or the career advising or career advisor, help one to start or plan to start their own business?
Yeah, so look, every year we do have a handful of students who go on and start their own businesses. We're absolutely bullish on helping you as an institution, right? So as an institution, we have, of course, a variety of coursework around entrepreneurship. We have professors who are entrepreneurs themselves. So you'll absolutely want to, for example, select your electives or select your streams appropriately. We also have what we call the HALT Founders Lab. Now, the HALT Founders Lab is actually itself in kind of startup form, but the HALT Founders Lab at the moment has a lot of momentum, I should say, in our London undergraduate and postgraduate campuses. So there's a resource there to plug into. From the career development perspective, what we do see is this, right? Our career advisors are quite skilled at helping anyone, whether they're looking for a job or looking at starting a business, really take a deep look in the mirror, right? And we can help you with that self-reflective piece, and we can help you kind of create your value proposition. And what I'm getting at here is that if you're an entrepreneur and you're out there trying to either, say, apply for a loan at a bank or secure other types of funding, whether it's angel investors or venture capital or something along those lines, you're going to need to be self-aware. You're going to need to develop a business plan. And part of that business plan is actually a very well-positioned resume, right? So while the career development team and your career advisors are not in the business of helping you write your business plan itself, we are in the business of helping you do that self-reflective piece and help you build your value proposition and help you build a great resume, and also, of course, your LinkedIn profile that makes you look appropriate to investors, I should say. So I hope that answers your question. There's a variety of infrastructure on the academic part of your journey. There's the career development team expertise on self-assessment and building your value proposition. And I think the other last piece is that your advisory team is quite well versed on the various startup networking events around the cities in which you're situated. So, Boston's a bit of a startup hub. San Francisco is for sure. London has a scene. Shanghai has a scene. Dubai has a scene. So all of our campuses have a startup hub scene. And your advisors are well versed on advising you on where you should be networking.
Great, thank you, Peter. Very quickly, there are a few people in the chat and in the Q&A asking about VMOC. Should I use VMOC? Yeah, you definitely should. I would encourage you to look in the Zoom webinar chat. Tamar has been very gracious in putting the link to the first webinar. So if you missed the first webinar and you want to learn more about VMOC and how to use VMOC, please click through that link, and that's what we covered in the first webinar. Outside of that, there was a question about when will we start working with our career advisor. Well, that's when you get to campus. Yeah. So during orientation, you're certainly going to be able to meet the careers team, and they will give you instruction on how to book through our platform called My Career. Peter, with regards, Laura has a question about applying for a job. So while studying at a home campus, whether it's Boston, San Francisco, London, Dubai, how does one apply for jobs outside of that campus location or that country, or continue to apply for jobs in their native country while they're away at school?
Yeah. So hi, Laura. It's absolutely possible. Yes. What I will share with you is, a general rule of thumb in any job search is what we call the boots on the ground strategy, which means that whatever your target geography is, it's most effective if you actually go and conduct your job search in that geography, right? That being said, there are absolutely some things you can do to begin your job search efforts. It really has a lot to do with leveraging technology, such as LinkedIn, such as Skype, and the other, voice-to-voice platforms. And also leveraging the HALT alumni network, right? So the great news is that we have a wonderful global network of what is currently a little over 19,000 alumni. As of August 24th, which is just a couple of months away, we're going to add another 2,500 or so alumni to that. So we're going to be well over 2,000. We have alumni working in a whole range of sectors and functional areas. And absolutely, we have alumni all over the world. So the types of things you can do is you can start reaching out to alumni through LinkedIn, right? And conducting those informational interviews I was talking about. Because while it may not feel like it's a concrete job application, you actually are doing a very productive job search activity by conducting these informational interviews. So yeah, the answer is yes. There's many things you can do. It takes strategy, right? If you're doing it internationally, it takes a bit of say time management, because you need to be aware of your time zone and their time zone and things like that. But short answer, absolutely possible. But again, I would encourage you to start early with your planning, so that once you do arrive in the program, you're feeling more comfortable and in a better position to conduct these international job searches.
Great, thank you, Peter. Two more questions, Peter. One quick one, which I'll address. There's a lot of Canadians on this webinar, and I noticed there's questions about do Canadians have to go for an H-1B, or can they utilize the TN visa, or the North American Free Trade? Yeah, you certainly can. As a Canadian, you can take advantage of the TN visa. I just want to specify that is for certain occupations, which you can certainly find online, but consulting is one of them. So there are a lot of Canadian consultants, Canadian nationals, who work as consultants in the United States under the TN visa, and so they don't need to go through that arduous H-1B process. But for more information on that visa type and that process, you can also meet with your career advisor early in the year to get caught up and brought up to speed with regards to that. So Peter, the question I want to address to you is about Adam. Adam has a question about rotation and visiting other campuses. His question is, he's going to start in Boston for 9 months, then he's going to go on rotation to another campus location, and then another location to do the dual degree, which would be San Francisco. So potentially he's looking at up to 4 different campuses. And he would like to know, how does HALT ensure that the information from his career advisor in Boston gets to the other career advisors across the globe?
Yeah, super good question, Adam. So we do have a global infrastructure and a global system in place. So let's say, for example, if we have an advisor on campus here, his name is Tom Lynch. If Tom were your advisor, and then he would be keeping notes on his conversations with you and your career aspirations, and of course any homework he gives you to prepare for your job search, he would also keep notes on that, and we would keep them in the system, right? So that means that if you rotate to San Francisco for your second degree, then Ali, who happens to be an advisor in San Francisco, would be able to access those notes. And so we'd be able to have this continuity of service across our various campuses. So it's quite straightforward, not to fear. I think what's most important is that you whoever your advisor ends up being here in Boston, that you engage with him or her as soon as you can, right? And this kind of comes back to one of the questions that was asked earlier. For you full-time postgraduate students, there is going to be an immersion period where you're going to be going through a bit of a kind of a toolkit couple of weeks to get you ready for the rest of your journey. And the interactions, the appointment setting with your career advisor typically happens right after the immersion period, which is right around the 1st of October.
Great. Okay, thank you, Peter. So if your question was not answered today on the call, you can address it to fast.track@halt.edu. And again, someone will reply within 24 hours via email. With that said, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. I'd like to thank Peter as well for imparting his wisdom on job search strategy. Something to note, Peter was up at 4:15 a.m. after running a gruesome almost marathon on the weekend. And we started doing these fast track webinars, obviously for the China time zone first, then London, and of course we ended off here. So special thanks for Peter for dedicating time and waking up so early to support us.
Thanks, Naf.
Okay, with that said, we look forward to seeing you again on the next webinar in June, and then eventually here on campus. Sorry, July. Next webinar in July. And we'll see you on campus shortly thereafter. Thank you.